Welcome to SALTovation. The SALTovation Show is a podcast series featuring the leading voices in SALT, where we talk about the issues and strategies to help you make sense of state and local tax.
Welcome back to SALTovation, Judy. We're going to talk a little bit about the accounting profession today. And a big issue right now facing the accounting profession is a shrinking pipeline of accountants. And from your perspective, you are both a CPA and an attorney, but we want to talk about why an accountant or lawyer should choose state and local tax specifically, which is a subcategory of the tax profession. So talk to me about why an accountant or lawyer should want to choose this profession.
Yeah, thanks for asking. I think it's super interesting. I was just at an American Bar Association / Institute for Professionals in Taxation conference last week, which is a group of 4,000 or 5,000, 6,000 humans nationwide that come together to learn about sales tax, income tax, property taxes, just those three tax categories, which are wildly disparate. And we come together in a forum and learn about each different issues that are coming through. So first of all, tax is legislation, right? It's instituted by legislators. It's a law that is put in place. It is typically enforced by departments of revenue. So there's the impetus of the law, which is your legal analysis, and then there's the actual compliance, which is how do you collect the tax and or fill out the forms. That's your accounting side. So there's this marriage that's really nice between the thoughtfulness of what does the law mean and how do you apply the facts, your facts to the law. So that's why the CPA attorney thing for me is a really good fit, because I love the legal analysis. What is your strategy? What should you do? What, where, and why? And then how you actually comply on a go-forward basis, either building out technology or building out a team or figure out how to invoice, language, all the things, setting up your contract specifically to speak to what you're selling so that you actually can tell a government, this is what I owe you. Because the government's going to come in and decide. And that's where there's the advocacy. So a lot of lawyers do it because taxpayers sue. They don't like their assessment. It's millions of dollars. It's a wrong interpretation of the law by the taxing authority. The Department of Revenue is enforcing an unfair tax or an incorrect tax or an incorrect interpretation of the tax as applies to my facts, taxpayer. So we have litigation. That's a great career path. We have compliance. You have to figure out what, when, and where. And that is another great career path, which you can do as a lawyer, you can do as a CPA. You marry it up with the technology. And there's the filing and the compliance and the advocacy with audit support, right? And how do you tell the rest of the governments what else you're doing aside from sales tax, income tax, property tax, unclaimed property? We have a lot of tax at the local jurisdictions that are not federal. Now, we have federal excise taxes. We have state excise taxes. We have severance taxes, fuel taxes, environmental taxes. We have tire taxes. We have a lot of little taxes on certain types of business, liquor taxes, sin taxes. Those are all enforced at the state and local level. So we just have a lot of taxes in America that are created, have to be managed. And so that's the CPA versus the lawyer mindset. And both together or alternatively can find a fantastic career that is super fascinating because you get to learn how the sausage got made. You get to learn how to apply it. You get to learn how to eat it. You get to learn how to wrap it up in a nice little package and sell it to someone else. But there's just so many tentacles of how you could do your tax world. You could just be in one state and really know that state super well as applied to a multitude of businesses. Or you could practice across the nation and help people finesse America, right? Or you could do coming inbound from a foreign country into the U.S. That's also interesting. Lots of great tax issues there. So there's just a lot of interesting puzzles to sort out, so I'm a lawyer and I had to take this thing called the LSAT, which is like a precursor to law school. And it's sort of I guess it's an aptitude test to see how good you are. One of the sections was logical games. I didn't miss one of those questions because laws are supposed to be logical, right? There's a reason the law got instituted. There was a problem they were trying to solve, a behavior they were trying to create. So they are not just thrown to the wind. They're thoughtfully enacted, but they're not well enforced and or applied. And that's where the creative part comes, right? And then in the end, you got to take a position. You got to fill out a form because there's a form and you got to sign it and you got to send it in. And so that's the compliance part. And that's also fascinating because words have meaning, money gets remitted, reporting gets done. That's important. Big stuff. So it's super exciting. Honestly, you get to learn lots of businesses and you deal with hundreds of customers and they do all kinds of cool stuff. You get to work with entrepreneurs. You get to help them finesse their fascinating journey of creating this really cool pink water bottle or creating this great software product or this cool digital book good, or they've come up with some new service, like they're going to sell tickets to events and they're wanting to sell them all over wherever they can make it happen. I mean, that's cool stuff. And so you just get to really be tangible help and you get to understand the transactions, which I think is really interesting. It's annoying and kind of stressful and overwhelming, but also business has order. Business isn't just any old thing. It's orderly. Like there's a process to getting a customer and signing a contract and building out your terms and conditions. And so there is order to that. And then you can manage that by figuring out what that looks like and where. And then you're open for business and you can sell anywhere and make the money and have the thing you wanted in your life to give back to this great service that you created. So that's why I think being either a CPA or an attorney or both is a great career in life. And it actually makes you really, one thing I've really noticed after going to Europe is it's, we're like Europe, except everything's written in English. We have one set of federal laws and we have certain state systems within our court system. So at least once things get figured out, they can be applied, as opposed to if you do something in Germany, it might be different than Italy, which might be different than Turkey, and it's all different languages. So we do have some essential politics, which does create some parity. You can read the laws and you can learn to apply them. And that's really, makes you really part of America. And so I think that's something we're really proud of.
You hit upon a number of characteristics that might be important for a professional in state and local tax. And I heard creative, decisive. You have to make a tax decision in a gray area. Meticulous. Energetic, I'm going to add. So anything else that might be a common characteristic of someone in this field?
Well, I think it's hard. So there's kind of a high barrier to entry. So it is a premium service. And if you're unique, then you do something unique, then a lot of people don't want to do it. So that's a good thing. So if you're willing to put the effort in, I think the payoff is fascinating. I think most people who do this we all share a common passion for the work and are very interested and kind of geek out on the details. So I think that's important because then your life has meaning. I mean, it's important to have a family and people in your life, but you got to work. If you don't have money, you got to work. So if you're a middle-class American or a whatever class American, like you want to have a means to an end and you want an interesting, productive career that's not punch at a clock every day, this is a fascinating career.
Interestingly enough, I understand that there's not always state and local tax classes in colleges.
No.
So is this something you kind of need to know about or learn about, either if you're young through an internship or someone you know or some other format? So I don't really have a question related to that. I don't know if you want to comment on that.
Well, I've been a little frustrated as I've been doing this. I'm almost 30 years into my practice. This is my 29th year. So I have been a little aghast, quite honestly. The American Institute of CPAs, the American Bar has not had more focus away from federal to the state and local area. And so, those of us being that drum are getting that out there. We're seeing more classes in LLMs and law programs and CPA programs that have a state and local component, at least something, so that people touch on it and see that's an option instead of thinking I'm just an estate and gift attorney or I'm just a federal tax controversy attorney or whatever that would mean in the federal world as an attorney in tax. And having the opportunity to touch state and local in the educational system. So we're seeing more of that. Georgetown does it, NYU does it, UT does it. So we're seeing more of that, but it's just not been pervasive enough, which I think is super interesting given the fact that every single day we are all impacted by state and local taxes. Our property taxes on our housing, our sales taxes on our food, our home telephone, our no longer home telephone, our mobile telephone, our Wi-Fi, our electricity bill. There's tax all over the place in America, and we just don't even see the bite-sized pieces it takes out of our pie when we live.
Right. Very few of us study the receipt.
right? And you're like, oh, and then there was a huge thing to like say, in fact, one of the vendors in Colorado, it was a big jewelry retailer, got a lot of trouble selling very expensive jewelry because they're at the Denver Mall. And they're like, we'll ship it to you and we won't charge sales tax in Denver and it'll save you 3-4%. Of course, that big rich person that bought that expensive item could afford the tax and they could pay the Greenwood Village tax, which is another home rule city of Colorado. So the vendor got in trouble for that, for kiting the tax. So we have a lot of people that use sales tax as a strategic advantage, what they think is troubling in itself. Quite honestly, Amazon did that in the beginning by not collecting sales tax because they didn't have a duty to. But you see Airbnb saying we'll collect the lodging tax on behalf of all of our homeowners who are renting out their room because we know it's a lot on them to do. So we'll do it for you. We'll consolidate it and we'll file it. We're not going to start out with a no tax collection strategy like Amazon did. And now you're just seeing with Wayfair that just changing which way anyway. So we're not creating a barrier to entry because you have a storefront and you're collecting tax and someone else isn't. There's a big thing about bricks and clicks. Now we're killing the bricks. We're probably going to get back to bricks, honestly, because you don't really want some of the stuff that you get it and you're like, this is crud. I don't want it. I didn't get to touch it. I didn't get to feel it. No wonder it was $2 or $19.99. It's a piece of poop. I don't want it. Shouldn't say that. It's not a good product. It's actually not a well-made product. It's not made with good quality materials, and it quite honestly doesn't fit me. So I'm not going to send it back though. So there's creating a lot of waste. So environmentally, you should think about that too. Your plastic waste and all that. It just makes me wonder if we're going to go circle on that. But anyway,
I could go off on a tangent on that, but I won't. So
Timu.
So I think we've covered everything we wanted to cover today. Okay. Well done.
This podcast is for educational purposes only and is not intended, nor should it be relied upon as legal, tax, accounting, or investment advice. You should consult with a competent professional to discuss specifics of your situation and the applicability of the information presented.